glossy and feels soft and fluffy. The wool's natural content of fat mixed with water acts as glue, which holds the felt carpet together after it has been given a special pressure treatment. Natural dyes and simple patterns give these felt carpets a special glow and homey look. Felt carpets are inexpensive and can be found in many homes in Xinjiang. The fine yarns, elaborate designs, and high quality of hand-woven hotan carpets give them a great reputation. For the yarns, a mixture of wool and silk is used to fashion the luxurious carpets, which are highly treasured collector items. Mostly women do the far more complicated carpet weaving. The artful speed and dexterity of their movements is amazing. It takes years to master the skills these women have developed. Most likely, they learned the craft from their mothers, who had been taught by their mothers. The art of carpet weaving is handed down from generation to generation. Small wall carpets depicting scenes of daily life in Xinjiang are favorite gifts. Their designs are quite amusing. Tourists like to purchase them as souvenirs. At home, the carpets will be reminders of Xinjiang's lavish splendor and magic. Silk is a very fine, lustrous fiber spun by the silkworm. The silkworm is the larva of a moth that spins a cocoon of silk. The female moth lays hundreds of eggs on the leaves of mulberry trees. The silkworm voraciously feeds on mulberry leaves and spins its cocoon of silk threads. After about 3 weeks, by breaking its protective cocoon, a mature moth emerges. Shortly before their maturity, the moth must be killed because a broken cocoon means broken silk threads, which have less value. The moths are killed by boiling the cocoons in water. Then the silk threads of several cocoons are carefully reeled together. During this process, it is very important that the silk threads are not torn apart. Thereafter, the yarns are dipped in natural dyes. Their brilliant colors and exquisite patterns create the precious, handmade atlas silk, a specialty of Hotan. Silk originated in China. For thousands of years, its production was a well-kept Chinese secret, until the silkworms that produce silk threads as translucent as ice were finally smuggled out of China to Persia by Nestorian Christian monks. This led to Persia discovering the fine art of silk making and demystifying the source of the miracle fabric, which until then was only available from China. However, the most significant commodity carried along the Silk Road was not silk, but religion. The religions introduced on this trans-Asian highway had a more lasting effect on society than anything else. Buddhism from India was introduced to China, followed later by Islam. Both became an integral part of the cultural, artistic, and ethnic makeup of China. These small traditional caps are attached to the headscarves of the women and proudly worn on their daily visits to the bazaar. The bazaars of Central Asia have a long history and are the heartbeat of every town. Mysterious market towns, now buried by the sands of time, thrived along the Silk Road as way stations for exhausted travelers. In the bazaars, goods were bartered, ideas and gossip exchanged, technologies discovered, and as many as 20 languages were spoken, which are now echoes of the past. There is always room for a quick snack of some delicious, locally grown vegetable or fruit, such as these roasted pumpkins or honeydew melons. Time-honored traditions of craftsmanship are still followed by the many artisans. Their crafts have been handed down for generations from father to son. China has long been home to many important inventions. Of these, the compass is among the most influential as it changed nautical history forever. Chinese alchemists also invented gunpowder. Genghis Khan shocked the besieged citizens of Samarkand and Bukhara when he conquered their fabled cities with his so-called flying fire cannons. This coppersmith creates household utensils which are not only useful, but decorative as well. His son is already busy at work, diligently following his father's instructions. These tea kettles have been handcrafted since time immemorial and grace many homes in Xinjiang. Every craftsman tries to develop his own design to set his creations apart from the competition next door. The wood carver is making bowls for daily use from solid pieces of wood. The process is simple and fast. In no time, a nice salad bowl is completed. Sesame oil is applied to make the wood shiny, and the bowl is ready to be sold. A few doors down, the papermaker is slicing and cutting the bark of mulberry tree branches to make pulp for a special paper. Paper making and paper money were invented in China, as well as typography. On the Silk Road, Chinese paper became an important commodity. Until the end of the 18th century, paper was made by hand in Europe, following traditional Chinese techniques. The handmade paper's texture is treasured by calligraphy artists. The nearby mosque is surrounded by fragrant rose gardens, which not only form a beautiful backdrop for the lovely dancers, but the roses are harvested for their ethereal oils, which are used in sensuous perfumes. Xinjiang produces the finest cotton in China and has a booming textile industry. A superhighway cuts across the desolate Taklamakan Desert, with bridges spanning the rivers from the icy mountains, which meander through the desert and eventually disappear into the endless wasteland of sand. A protective belt of desert-resistant trees and shrubs has been planted. The trees and shrubs are constantly irrigated, but the ferocious desert can only be temporarily stopped in its eternal quest to devour any man-made obstruction. The everlasting desert winds continue to blow the shifting sands across the superhighway, sometimes covering it completely with fine sand, like fresh fallen snow. It seems that only camels miraculously survive in this harsh environment. The vicious Taklamakan Desert has taken its toll on mankind, but now gives back. After years of failed exploration, the desert has finally yielded its well-kept secret and revealed huge deposits of oil and gas. Formerly known as the Sea of Death, the Taklamakan Desert is now referred to as the Sea of Hope. For energy-hungry China, the black gold of the Taklamakan is a blessing. Xinjiang is now an important provider of much-needed energy, with pipelines connecting it to the highly industrialized east of China. Besides oil and gas, the desert has also rich deposits of copper, gold, iron, tungsten, chromium, manganese, saltpeter, and gypsum, which are mined with modern techniques. Huge wild camel herds continue to roam the desert and gather around their watering holes. The world-famous Kizil Grottos are a complex of 236 caves. About 135 of them remain relatively intact. The rest have been vandalized by grave robbers, plundered by marauding armies and greedy archaeologists who peeled the priceless murals off the walls. In the 3rd century AD, these grottos were tunneled by monks deep into the rock of the mountains. The exquisite murals depict stories from Buddhist sutras. Interestingly enough, the vivid dance scenes of the murals present the same choreography as is still performed today in Xinjiang's ethnic dances. The famous Iron Gate was built at the top of a pass crossing an insurmountable mountain range. It was a strategic checkpoint on the ancient Silk Road. Travelers had to pay a road tax for the privilege of using the Silk Road. Broken down carts are reminders of the arduous treks the caravan traders had to make to move their precious merchandise across Central Asia. In the 13th century, during the Yuan dynasty, Emperor Kublai Khan, grandson of Genghis Khan, perfected the postal courier system. His fearless Mongol warriors guarded the Silk Road and guaranteed safe passage for the caravans, which usually traveled by night because in daytime the desert heat was unbearable. The former palace of the commanding general of the military garrison stationed at the Iron Gate is now a museum recounting the bygone glory of the Silk Road. Legend has it that a monk suggested to Genghis Khan that he build a city at an auspicious place on the grassland following the rules of the ultimate, which consists of a black and white fish, also called the yin and yang. The 8 diagrams symbolize the 8 natural phenomena: water, sky, earth, thunder, wind, fire, mountains, and lakes. Genghis Khan passed away before he could realize the vision of the monk. Early in the 20th century, a Chinese government official remembered the legend, and Turkis, also called the Heavenly City, was built according to the monk's suggestions and Genghis Khan's original architectural plans. This brand new city on the vast historic grassland has been blessed with prosperity and good fortune ever since. For centuries, the Tuva Mongols have lived completely isolated, high up in the deep forests of northern Xinjiang as farmers and livestock breeders. The Tuva claim to be direct descendants of Genghis Khan. The Tuva have preserved the ancient music and traditions of the nation on the back of horses, as the Mongols were called when their raiders swept across Europe, establishing Genghis Khan's gigantic empire a long time ago. Only recently roads have been built and electricity has been provided, which make the land of the Tuva and the outside world more accessible. Satellite television now brings the world into Tuva homes, and tourists start visiting the picturesque area. However, the Tuva continue to live a very simple life. Their villages are scattered in hidden valleys across the densely forested mountain ranges. Some of them are so remote that outsiders rarely interrupt the tranquil daily existence of the villagers. Unlike their nomadic brothers on the endless grassland of Xinjiang, the Tuva live in sturdy wooden block houses with mud-covered roofs shielding them from harsh winters. Like all Mongols, the Tuva are expert horsemen. They seem to have been born in the saddle. Horses are their best friends.